What's going on, people? So bear with me, I'm getting over a little flu, so my voice is a little grogged out and I might be coughing, but we're gonna try and work through this. All right, thought I'd do this video right now because I'm upgrading my water meth system. Now, if you're not familiar with what I got going on, or sort of previously, I had, here's my air filter normally here with my, my air filter and tube, and I had either a 4 or a 6 gallon per hour that I was injecting through the filter that would go through, and then I had 6 port nozzles. Each one of those is 1 gallon per hour. That's what I had before. Issue that was occurring, well, if I was to pressurize the filter, so I had the filter one pressurized, I noticed that these ones were dropping out. They were taking quite a while. I can probably do the 1/8 in the quarter and they wouldn't all be firing properly. So I would see this one and then those ones weren't firing. So what I did is I canceled this one just for the test while I was at the track. And I noticed that it took about 3 to 4 seconds. Instead of taking about, let's say 6, 7, 8 seconds to fully get pressure on these, it would be about 3 to 4. So it cut that time in half, but either way, it still wasn't efficient because I needed this right out the gate. So what I did is I started canceling this one, and it didn't really work that well. So what I decided to do is change my location of this nozzle, put it over here, and see how well it would really work with these canceled out. So it wasn't that bad, except the fact that this side would be about minus 14% on trims, and this side was about 2 to 3% on trims, minus 2 to 3% on trims. So where's the nozzle located? It's actually right here underneath, right? So it's spraying on the inside of the radius of this pipe and then going in. So I might have to mess around with that and put another one on this side so I can try and get this bank to actually see from this. However, I wasn't really working well with my port still because of the pump. So I didn't really, my knowledge on this is crude. I'm not really the greatest on it. I've experimented with this, but as far as other setups, I don't really know of anybody else. I'm trying to experiment for myself, right? Almost everybody is. So I reached out to Scott Williams over at USRT. That guy is a wealth of knowledge. He's like the god of water meth. So if you ever need any info, reach out to him. He talked with me on the phone, gave me all the details that I needed. So that was great. And what we came to a conclusion is this pump here is not recommended for port injection. So if you've got a Snow Performance, which is, I think this is the only pump they got, their 300 PSI pump, it doesn't flow enough volume, right, for port injection. So if you want to use, or if you have just a nozzle at your throttle or 2, let's say, but you don't have port, you're good to go. But if you were to actually install these lines, which are clear, smaller gauge as well, and you would notice that they're not flowing. So you can put a flow meter if you wanted to, really, on each one of them if you could. But this is just an easier indication. And how do I check it? Well, it's easy for me in a sense. I can check it standing still if I want. I can do like a 2-step launch. So I'm revving it and creating boost. And I can see it. So I can see them basically not firing. And then when I look at my data logger, that's when I can see, obviously, the fuel trims. I can see knock correction, stuff like that. So I know that I've got an issue with it. So what did we come to a conclusion is obviously the pump itself. Pump itself doesn't flow enough. So we changed this one out, which I believe is a 20 gallon per hour. I forget how many cc's. You can go to the Prometh site. They actually have the statistics for the entry-level pumps. They sell the same thing as these guys. And they also have a medium pump. So that's what I got here. I just installed the medium one. And this is a 30 gallon per hour, or what is it, 115 liters. This is a bigger pump, flows more volume. It's also got a heat sink on the bottom of it to help it cool. So now that we have more volume, we have to be able to supply it and receive it. So to receive it, before I just had this 1/4 inch fitting going into the pump, and then supplying it, I had this 4A, they call it a Failsafe from USRT. I basically have a pressure transducer on this port, and that goes to my dash. I have a P3 gauge, and it tells me the pressure I have in my line. So I know when my pump fails or if I have pressure loss, stuff like that. So I've actually helped me fix leaks that I didn't even know I had, like little drizzling leaks. I'd have about 150 PSI and it would drop down to like 90 in a matter of 10 seconds or so, just from a little drizzle. So that was that was very, very helpful in it being just a connection right here. Anyways, so this is what I had. This is a 4 AN, I believe, going into a 1/4 inch. And then I had a T on the end of this. And that T would basically feed into the shutoff valve. And then another one would go, the other side of that T would go out through here, and it would go over to another T that I had that would split off and feed the banks. So again, now the banks are controlled by this. And then I had the air filter or the throttle, whatever you want to call it now, the new location, controlled by this. And then I had a little check valve in place so I wouldn't siphon this whole line. These ones, it's not recommended to have a check valve after, so I only have this. There's nothing after on this, okay? So what we had to do, being that we have more pump or more volume, is to supply it. So if you look here, this is something created by Scott. So it's actually 2 lines. So I've got 1 line here, right? 1 line here, and then my supply to it. So I've got 2 1/4 inch lines feeding this pump. And then out of it, I've got the same kind of setup. It's kind of hard to see. Sorry, guys. I'll take a picture and attach it into the video. So I've got my pressure transducer here. This is a 6 AN instead of a 4 AN. Goes down, pressure transducer. I've got the line now going for the throttle, right, coming off of it. And then at the bottom of this, so it's basically like a 3-way fitting on the end of this. It's not a T, it's actually just inside like a union. And then at the bottom of it, I've got a 4 AN braided line, right? So the braided line goes at the bottom, comes off, goes all the way over here, goes into a fitting to convert it from 4 AN into the 1/4 inch snow nylon lines, and I feed both sides. So I still have a T over here. It's a bigger T, but the main thing is the difference at the line at the bottom. So I got 6 AN going into two pieces or 2 pipes on the end of this with the pressure transducer. So it's not an actual T, right? Versus before I had it coming off into a small 1/4 inch T, that 1/4 inch line feeding another line that would come over here, go here, feed another 1/4 inch line, RT basically, and go off. So it's reducing the amount of flow, and it just wasn't pushing. So now I got more volume supplied and I have more volume being received. And in case you want to aware of what I'm doing as far as my my reservoir, I got the 2 lines going into my washer fluid. So I've got a tap here. That's the one I just added. And then you can't really see, it's dark, sorry guys. There's another line at the bottom. So that's going into the tank. So I've got 2. Now I could have drilled, this is the original one I put at the bottom. I could have probably taken the bottle out and done it, but look, man, I ain't feeling that great. So I just stuck it in here and it fits perfect. And it's also below the level sensor. So I know when my level hits that I still got a bit to go before my first line is got no more fluid at it. And thank you to Audi for actually making the proper size area to put a 1/4 inch line through. Man, that's German engineering, huh? Thinking into the future to put a 1/4 inch snow line right in place in the washer fluid ball. It's great. Love it. So yeah, 2 lines going into a 6 AN now, coming out of it, splitting off, going into the throttle, and then I got my ports. Now I am probably going to add another one, another nozzle as a supercharger. It goes like this. So I'm going to put another one on the inside, because this one here on the inside radius, I noticed that it feeds this bank more. So this bank will be like really in the negative, double digits negative on fuel trims, and this one will be in my single digits, very single digits on negative pulling fuel. So obviously I have to play with the file a bit on that, but I want to make sure that I have even flow from that port, because I've canceled these off and tried it. So I know that this side, if you feed your throttle, you're going to be feeding this bank, right? So in this snorkel tube or at the throttle, you're feeding this bank. It's not even. So what I'll do, I'll have to find some room down on this side and I'll be able to inject it there. Anyways, guys, apologies again. I got a little cold, so my voice is crap. But I thought I'd give a little update as to what we're doing. Obviously, we haven't tested it yet. I'm just installing it right now. And we're at the end of the race season. It's mid-November right now. So, or beginning of November, sorry. And we're in Montreal, Canada. So that shit's closed. Closed at the end of October. Halloween, basically, is like the last day or something. Or that weekend before Halloween. So we'll probably do some draggy runs to try it out in Mexico. It's a long drive, man. Mexico, just to do some draggy runs. But hey, I'm up for it. I'm up for it to show you guys some testing and research. So we'll see how this goes. All right, catch you on the next one.